I still remember the first time I realized modern English slang had become its own universe. I was sitting in a cafe when two teenagers walked past me, laughing and talking with a speed I could barely follow. One of them said, "That movie was mid, but the soundtrack was fire," while the other added, "Yeah, but the ending had me dead." I understood every word separately, but together the sentences felt like riddles. How could something be mid yet fire? And why did the ending kill him if he was still standing there? That moment made me aware of something important. Languages don't stand still. They constantly evolve with culture, music, technology, and the creativity of new generations. Slang and idioms are like mini time capsules. They capture how people think, what they value, and how they express emotions in the present moment. So I decided to pay attention. My goal wasn't just to decode these expressions, but to understand why they existed and what they revealed about modern communication. I began this journey by listening more closely to conversations around me. On buses, in coffee shops, online, and even in movies. At first, everything sounded chaotic, almost playful in a way that didn't follow traditional grammar. But as I listened deeper, patterns began to appear. Slang wasn't random. It was a shortcut to emotion. Idioms weren't literal. They were windows into shared cultural understanding. And slowly, the confusing sentences started to make sense. Modern English wasn't something to memorize. It was something to feel, interpret, and experience in context. This realization marked the beginning of my journey into decoding the language of today. One of the first slang expressions that made sense to me was "spill the tea." I heard it while waiting in line for a train. Two coworkers were whispering, and one said, "Come on, spill the tea." I know something happened in the meeting. I realized that tea wasn't a drink but a symbol for gossip or personal truth. What fascinated me was not just the meaning but the tone. Slang carries personality. When people use it, they're not simply sharing information. They're sharing attitude, style, and emotion. A few days later, I encountered the phrase "hit different" during a conversation with a friend. We were eating at a small restaurant when he said, "This dish always hits different on cold days." The expression painted a vivid emotional picture. It wasn't just about taste. It was about memory, comfort, and the feeling that something familiar could suddenly impact you in a new way. I realized how efficiently slang condensed complex emotions into just 2 words. Idioms offered another layer of discovery. They often sounded mysterious, but when I looked deeper, they revealed cultural stories. Break the ice wasn't about frozen water, but about reducing tension. Under the weather wasn't literal illness, but a gentle way to express feeling unwell. Bite the bullet wasn't about pain, but about facing something difficult with bravery. Each idiom was like a metaphorical bridge between language and culture. The more I learned, the more I noticed how slang and idioms helped people connect. They created a sense of community. They signaled belonging. When someone said, no worries in a relaxed tone. I could feel the warmth behind the words. When someone used "it is what it is," I sensed acceptance. These expressions carried emotional weight that ordinary vocabulary sometimes lacked. Understanding them made conversations richer and more human. My journey into decoding modern slang and idioms eventually became more than a linguistic exercise. It became a way of understanding how people communicate meaning beneath the surface. I discovered that slang often reveals identity. When someone says, "that's my vibe," they are not only describing preference but also defining a personal style. When someone describes a plan as low-key, they are revealing emotions they may not want to show fully. Every word choice reflects personality. Idioms, on the other hand, reveal shared experience. They carry the history of generations. When people say, "the ball is in your court," they are using a metaphor rooted in sports. When they say, "the best of both worlds," they are expressing a balanced advantage. These phrases survive because they express something universal, something that resonates beyond time and culture. Understanding modern expressions taught me a powerful lesson. Communication isn't just vocabulary. It is rhythm, emotion, tone, and intention. Slang evolves as people look for quicker, more expressive ways to share feelings. Idioms survive because they carry wisdom and familiarity. And both matter because they make language alive.